Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Musings from the Mount podcast. I am your host, Joseph Carenza. This week, Michael Lindfield returns, and we delve into the spiritual dimensions of our rapidly evolving planet. And in today's episode, we tackle the concept of the Great Reset, and we approach it from a spiritual perspective. We uncover its connection to ancient wisdom and modern challenges. We explore how this reset relates to our individual and collective purpose, and discuss practical ways to align ourselves with the greater plan for humanity. So whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just curious about the unseen forces shaping our world, this episode offers fresh insights and actionable wisdom. So we hope you enjoy it. And if you do like this podcast, please consider going to meditationmount.org and donating. Your donation helps us to bring you this podcast, as well as all the other programs the Mount produces, both today and in the future. We are incredibly grateful and honored by your support. All right, and now with the podcast and the Great Reset. I think so. I'd like to just start out with the idea of the Great Reset and like thinking about how does that relate to like the Tibetans' vision of the New World Order, the emergence of the Aquarian Age. Like, what do these terms mean, and how does that relate? You know, what's happening right now, but also in the lens of the kind of trans-Himalayan tradition. You know,
Great question. The word reset presupposes that there was an original setting. And I think that's what we're talking about. What's the original setting that set the whole thing in motion? In the beginning was the word, but behind the word was a dream. Behind the dream was an intention. So there's a deep purpose or a desire. We don't have the word. I mean, how do we know what lives and moves inside of this cosmic heart and mind? Good grief. Yeah. We're not there yet. So for me, when you say a time of the Great Reset, it means that we may have gone off course from the original course that was plotted out by us, for us. I'm thinking of when I'm navigating in my car and I use Waze. You know, I find that really useful. It helped navigate through the wild regions of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's taken me out of some, hairy places. It even though I say, no, that can't be true, I've learned to obey my ways.
So, I use it as well. So.
Yeah. So anyway, the point I'm making is that if I choose to put in a destination and it says, okay, it's going to take you 45 minutes and here's the route. And I follow the route, it gives me instructions. And then I say, no, but I just want to zip over here and pick up something, from this store. And then I go in a way that wasn't originally set. As I'm driving off course, according to my navigator, it resets, it recalibrates, and it goes, and it gives me another set of coordinates because the destination is the same. I think that's what we're talking about, Joey. The destination is the same, but we may have gotten off course. So the reset is many things, and one of them is helping us get back on track. And the destination is not a geographical location. For me, the destination is a new level of awareness, state of consciousness, state of being. And as we talked about in our last podcast, which was kicked off the third season of our series, we believe that the destination is love. It's not a place. It's not a quantity, it's a quality, it's a beingness. And therefore, what we're going towards as a destination, what we're going towards in this evolutionary spiral is a greater ability to embrace, receive, transmit, love, and in the end, be love. So for me, the reset is about we've gotten off course. And we've got to get back on track. That's one way of looking at it. And I mean, there are other analogies we could use, but that's the one that immediately comes to mind because I do it all the time in my car when I'm going to somewhere I've never been before. I just plug it in and I follow instructions. So we decide the destination. My navigator doesn't say, today we're going here. It says, where would you like to go?
That's a big distinction. And it's an obvious distinction, but maybe not one that you readily think about. That is a big difference because we, as humans, we don't like to be told what to do, except for that we're always asking to be told where to go. Like how to
Exactly.
get there. We all love our GPS, but we want to decide where to go. But that's interesting that we give up the idea of how to get there. That's a strange concept, really, when you start to think about it, because the how is a big deal. So how do we do
Well, see,
this?
the how
Yeah,
is where all the juice happens.
right.
It isn't just arriving at the destination.
Hmm.
It's what happens on the way to the destination that
Yeah,
generates the awareness that is the experience itself.
right.
If you went straight to the destination and missed the journey,
Hmm.
it would have no meaning.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how those old truisms. It's it's a journey.
The journey and the map
Yeah,
is not the
yeah,
territory.
yeah.
All of these things. We have to experience
Mhm.
the travel, the journey, because that is what gives us the lived experience
Mhm.
of going to the destination.
Right.
If you and I were transported immediately to the final destination, first of all, we couldn't get there because we haven't grown in our capacity to arrive,
Mhm.
because it's not a place, it's a state of consciousness. And you can't go to a state of consciousness until you're ready to enter it. And you're only ready to enter it when the frequency of your life is co-resonant with the state that you're seeking to enter.
Right.
I mean, that's what I always loved about the mythology and the fairy tales and Tolkien and all of these wonderful stories. That some of these gates were locked,
Mhm.
and they had cipher locks or they had frequency locked. It isn't like you had to find a key. Some of them had keys, but the true key was a frequency, a key, a vibrational key. So when you give out a certain vibration,
Mhm.
it immediately opens. And that's what happens with the chakras.
It's also like when the student is ready, the master appears.
Well,
It's that same
exactly.
concept.
So we're
Yeah.
told that, we have 7 chakras in our body,
Mhm.
and eventually they all will be opened and we'll be able to access all the energy in it and utilize it to support evolution in general. A lot of people think, oh, wow, I got a storehouse here. Let's break into the storehouse. And so they use all these techniques to sort of break down the door.
Mhm.
And my sense of what the Ageless Wisdom teaching is advising us is that when you reach a certain point of development and maturity, you are giving off a frequency that automatically opens these chakras, just like the sun invites the petals of a flower to open. You've got to create the sunshine. You've got to create that frequency. If you pull the petals open, you may access the inside, but it isn't the inside that is alive in the same way as when you're ready to receive it. So a lot of people break into the storeroom, they plunder.
Mhm.
And and a lot of people have, particularly in the spiritual movement, because they're too eager, or they believe that if I take this substance, or if I do this particular meditation and this technique, I can access my power. You access your power by your own beingness.
Mm.
You have to prove that you're ready to enter the door, or for the door to be open to you. Knock and the door shall be open. Well, the knock is a signal, is a frequency you emit. That's how I'm holding it. I mean, once again, this is Michael's speculation again.
Right.
We've got to put in the disclaimer, don't believe a word I'm saying, unless it resonates or unless you're willing to test it as a working hypothesis in the alchemical lab of your own daily life.
Yeah.
End of disclaimer. So it's fascinating because we want to get there.
Mhm.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And we want to hurry up. But you can't speed up to the destination. The way that it comes closer more immediately
Mhm.
is by living in the moment, living fully in the moment, and then it unfolds.
Mhm.
You don't get somewhere. the somewhere is now here. I find the whole notion of time and space and distance, the speed of love connects us instantaneously with everything. It's beyond time, it's beyond space. Love already connects us. So when we are in love and have this sense of love, we are simply reconnecting with that which is already connected. And it's timeless. It's infinite. It's eternal.
So it's like almost a removing of veils. Like, so
Yeah.
you're already seeing what's there.
Yes. Yeah. Now, you remove the veils by raising your frequency, not by ripping down the curtains.
Right. It's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
And so that, but bring it back to the idea of the Great Reset. So, it seems like regardless of whether you study any tradition, there seems to be, after a preponderance of the evidence, that there is some sort of plan, some sort of unfolding.
Well, exactly. Now, so you asked about the tradition, the lineage that we have here at Meditation Mount, which is the Western mystery tradition coming out of the trans-Himalayan wisdom. And it's very clear that at the heart of everything, there is this deep desire of the Creator, or this purpose. And purpose, really, I was thinking of this just a while back, that purpose really, at a cosmic level, is a very attractive proposition. Oh, yeah, I'm called to do that. It's an attractive proposition because it becomes magnetic. So when purpose builds up to potency, it becomes magnetic and it calls to us. And when it calls to us, I want to go there. And that's when we put in that destination in our navigator and off we go. So for me, purpose is an attractive proposition. And if we're going to take from the teachings that we've just named, the Alice Bailey teachings that were given to her by the Master DK, they talk about 3 levels. There is purpose, there is plan, and there is project. Purpose has to do with the deep will of life, the raison d'etre, the reason everything exists. The plan is the vision stimulated by that purpose that is, that's what it means when it unfolds. The project is, these are the things we've got to do to make it happen on earth. And it's said that purpose is connected with Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. The plan is connected with the ashram, or the 5th kingdom, the 5th realm of these enlightened beings, these postgraduate humans, because they can see the vision generated by the note of purpose. And then we are the project people. Humanity represents the project. This is the personality. So spirit, soul, personality, purpose, plan, project, Shambhala, ashram, masters, humanity. So our task is to take the projections from the plan that are projected to us, and those projections, when we do something about it, become projects. And our project for Earth is to release the light in matter, is to release the love in all things, the light of love. And so the reset would be when we're getting off course, and we get off course when we get self-centered and forget that we're part of a greater purpose. So the Great Reset is the resounding of the note of purpose. And we were told this happened in all critical times, 1975. It happened during the Second World War. There was a release of shambhalic energy, release of will. And when you release will, it has a very dramatic effect on form life. I think we covered this in other podcasts, and maybe we could just briefly go over it again, because it's really important, because it has to do with purpose. So, for instance, in 1975, there was a release of the Shambhala. 2000. So every now and again, there's this pulse of purpose. And what it does, it helps reset. So we go back to the Great Reset. So this is what the Ageless Wisdom teachings says, that there are 3 effects on form of the sounding of the note of purpose. If you like, you can imagine this giant tuning fork in the sky being sounded, boing. And when it hits a form, if that form, i.e. you and I, our incarnated self, is fairly well integrated and aligned and intending to serve this deeper purpose, we are simply strengthened and given more energy to carry on and do this work. That's number 1. The second effect is, if you and I intend to live a life that is aligned with a deeper purpose, but we still are working out a lot of personal patterns, we've still got stuff in the way, still got distortions in the field, then this note will say, it wants to be reset. And it puts us through a cathartic process of transformation to bring our forms into alignment with the note of spirit. And because our intent is to do that, there is some resistance. The patterns sort of hold out. We get hold out in our patterns, and they are, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to let go. You're going to still be addicted to me because I don't want to die. So we know that the second effect of the sounding of the deep note of purpose is a shake-up, is a reset. And it's a real catharsis. It rocks us to our foundations. The third effect that the Ageless Wisdom talks about is destruction. If the form has no relationship with its original intent and purpose, if there's no resonant thread between purpose and the form, between the indwelling life and the form, then it's recycled because it has no more use. Things are only useful when they can be used for the expression of spirit. That's why in the Ageless Wisdom teachings, they talk about these 2 things, the indwelling life and the form. So for you and I, and for those listening, our soul is the indwelling life. And our personality is its form, its evolving form. And so at deeper levels, the indwelling life of a solar system uses the forms of its planetary manifestations to express itself. And everything is in a constant and continuous state of evolution. So the reset is to help us keep on track and make sure that we don't stray from the original intent, what we originally programmed. So it's a fascinating subject. We can really go deep into this one, but I wanted to name the 3 effects of will or purpose on form life because it's what's happening to us now. I believe this is why we're going through the Great Reset. If nothing was sounded, if no note of purpose was sounded, then why would the forms be troubled and be moved to action? They would just be there lethargically, just sort of in comfort, just hanging out. But the note of purpose calls us to a higher order. It's the Great Reset, as you said. I mean, that's a very powerful expression, Joey, the Great Reset, because that's what I feel in my life.
Right.
If I look over the last few years, my God, what a reset.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm going on about 6 years of completely different life. I mean, it's going in one direction and then just completely going the other direction. And like a
Right,
complete reset of mind, body, and spirit.
right, right. So it's interesting because here we use several invocations and prayers that have been given us. And one of them is this world prayer called the Great Invocation. And people are familiar with it. And the last stanza says, let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Now, restore, once again, assumes that it was there in the first place, which is the reset. If we're going to reset, there was an original setting. There was an original plan. Once again, the plan comes out of the purpose. And then from the plan, there is this project. We are the project managers of divine purpose and the plan on earth. So let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. That's our task. Bringing heaven down on earth, whatever we want to call it. The qualities and the beauty and the principles of the inner life got to show up on the outside for the full flowering of the planet to happen. So the Great Reset is making sure that we don't go off course, that the bud doesn't die and is not able to flower. It's an act of re-stimulation.
That is interesting. I can't help but concurrently thinking about how, with the James Webb telescope and how we
Right.
keep discovering more and more things. It's almost like we're all these distributed clusters of computing, and our plan was to develop and try to figure out love, and it seems like we're not doing that great at it. I mean, we're still basically fighting over the same, acreage of land over and over again.
Yeah.
But I am a bit of an optimist, and so that's I think part of our work uh, is to hold that space of optimism that we can continue to work. So, I mean, what's one of the things is how do we align ourselves with this plan? How do we as humans, what is the choice or the buy-in that we have, to say I'm ready to be part of this or ready to do part of this work?
Well, first of all, it goes back to what we talked about when you become a Gaian and you move from being human to becoming a Gaian. You identify as the planet. Not just I live on the planet, but I am the planet. Therefore, sorry, what's my task in this household? What am I being asked to do to keep the place not just neat and tidy, but that it's a joyful place and that's an evolving place? So when I look at the whole question of the plan and how we get in touch with the plan, I go back to this purpose, plan, and project. If the plan for the planet is being held by the realm of souls, this embodied level of consciousness that is love, wisdom, that's where our souls live. Our souls are part of that realm. It's just that we haven't created the vehicle on earth, i.e. the humans, which is the fourth realm. The fourth and the fifth haven't merged. When the fourth and the fifth merge, then our outer life is an agent of the soul without distortion, without loss of energy. It's the soul that holds the plan and knows the plan. And the plan isn't this sort of a set of words or pictures. The plan is the geometry of purpose. It's a kaleidoscopic representation of purpose, and we tune into it in whatever way we can, and then we dance with it. And we're invited to be artisans and co-creative artists of the plan. It isn't like somebody gives you a set of orders. Okay, go out and do this. No, it's go out and bring love and light and spiritual power on earth to build on earth what already exists on the inner planes. And therefore, we have the freedom to tune into the plan, and then we have the freedom to bring our own gifts, bring our own colors, bring our own notes to really flesh out the plan on earth. And that becomes a project. And when the project's completed, we have a society and a planet where there is harmony between its outer expression and its indwelling life. I mean, that's how I hold it. So the choice is, the plan isn't like, do I subscribe to this society? Do I sign the pledge? It's, am I in alignment with my soul that already knows the plan, is in touch with the plan, actually is part of the plan? And now I say, yes, I will play my part in the plan. Which is different from saying, I'm going to join the military, I'm going to join this. You are signing up, but you're signing up for something that you are already subscribed to, that you are already a member of, which is the the presence of the soul. The presence of the soul can only act in time and space through its incarnated agency. The Joeys and the Michaels and everyone else that's listening, sitting in this incarnated vehicle. And that's why, as we've said before, the whole of this incarnational journey is to refine this instrument of Joey or Mary or Josephine or whatever the instrument's called this lifetime, so that it can do justice to the promise of the soul, the plan. It can restore the plan on earth.
Wow. That's good. I mean, you mentioned like a Shambhala and the ashrams. Like,
Yeah.
what can you kind of define what for people maybe that don't know what that is or the significance of those and what they are and like what their significance is? What's the
Well, think of it this way. A number of people now understand that we have all these chakras. I mentioned before, we've got these 7 chakras, and they represent different energy centers that carry different frequencies, different qualities. They do different things inside the living system of self. Well, that's the same for a planet or a solar system or a universe. There are chakras. Now, the chakra inside the planet that represents the head center, where there is purpose being held, is called Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. It's also called by another name, the center of true peace, because when you are in alignment with purpose, you are at peace. And what we call the ashram or hierarchy or the masters of wisdom, some of these terminologies may be a little archaic and have baggage around them. But for me, it's an energy center, the heart center. So the ashram, the 5th realm, the realm of souls, is the heart chakra of the planet. Therefore, it dispenses love. It's the place where things are received and distributed. Guess what? Those occupying that function are those who have embodied love wisdom, whose hearts are fully opened and flowered. And then you look at humanity. Humanity is a chakra in the body of Earth called the throat chakra. Because it's up to us to resound and recreate the word in time and space. So here you've got Shambhala, which represents the planetary head center. You've got the realm of souls or the masters of wisdom, which is both masculine and feminine. I think at that time, they're more androgynous. That's the heart center. And you've got the throat center, which is humanity, because the throat center is the higher aspect of creation. Now, the lower correspondence, and by lower I don't mean in any, what's it? Yeah.
You're not saying it's lesser.
No. I'm not denying its importance, but the lower correspondence of the throat chakra is the sacral center, the sexual organs. So you're moving from co-creation. Everything's of co-creation. So the sexual center is about procreation. And then the throat center is co-creation with the plan.
Right.
And so denigrate was the word I was searching for. Thank you, Michael. See, my search engine is a little sluggish today. So
we've all been experiencing high volumes of traffic.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, to get back to your point, is that it isn't like, Shambhala is this sort of mystical place somewhere and all these wonderful beings. No, it's an energy center in a being called the planet Earth. Just as my head center is an energy center within a being called Michael. That head chakra allows me to tune in and come into alignment with the planetary head chakra, the purpose. My heart allows me to be in resonance with the realm of souls and with everyone. And my throat allows me to be creative, to be the artist. That's why the human voice is so important. In the beginning was the word, and it was uttered from the silence by the cosmic breath. We do the same. We breathe in and we breathe out and we sound forth.
That's right.
And so we are, if you like, fractals of that. It's all scalar. So if you want to demystify this whole thing of Shambhala as being this lofty city somewhere in the sky, no, it's an energetic function inside the planetary body, just as it is inside of you and I.
And there's a lot of maybe baggage that's kind of rolled up in like terms like the Great Reset and New World Order, these kind of ideas.
Well, New World Order has gotten a bad rap.
It's gotten a bad rap. The WEF hasn't done much good for that. But how do we? I mean, given people's apprehension, like there's like a twofold thing that's happening. Like people are both becoming more spiritual, more open to these ideas, while at the same time being highly skeptical of any kind of hierarchy or plan.
Well, okay. Here's Michael's advice.
Yeah.
Strip the labels off.
Right.
Go with the qualities.
Mm-hmm.
My life is dedicated to being loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say it's to follow the teachers of the masters of and if that gets in the way and it gets in the way of other people understand. And also, you don't need to say it.
Mm-hmm.
By living a life of loving kindness, you transmit that fact. You don't say, hey, my life is dedicated to loving kindness.
Right.
No, you keep quiet and get on with it. I mean, my Buddhist friends in Sri Lanka, they don't go around saying, hey, we're practicing loving kindness. They show up as loving kindness in all these social settings, helping people who went through great catastrophes or the massacre that happened in Sri Lanka. And, my friend was called upon to help mobilize psychological support for those in trauma after that shooting.
Yeah.
So for me, you can get hung up with the terminology just as you can get hung up by joining a party, a political party, or a religion. I'm a member of this. No, that's the outer form. What lives at the heart is what's important. So if love is what you're called to live and be in your life, let that into your heart. Sign up for love. It's free. And nobody's going to hassle you.
Yeah.
It's not a club. It's not a cult. They're not going to hound you if you decide to leave.
Right. But it is interesting once you start living in that state of mind or in that philosophy, the world really does open up in a different way.
Right.
The energies, you really do feel like you're part of something greater.
I guess that's why here at Meditation Mount, people ask, do we have a spiritual lineage? And we say, yeah. And we talk about the Trans-Himalayan mystery tradition. We talk about the lineage that flows through the river that gave birth to Theosophical Society, Steiner, Krishnamurti's work. We're part of that. But we're not here to promote the teachings of that lineage. We're here to invite people into the heart of that teaching that says we are essentially divine, we are love, and we're all one. We're part of this one unified field. Those are the three principles we work with here at Meditation Mount. Essential divinity, which is we're all divine, we're all sacred fractals. Goodwill, which is love is everywhere and all things, and the glue that holds it together. And unanimity, the principle that says, hey, we're all part of this seamless web, this unified field. So the unified field theory, our job is to prove the unified field fact. So therefore you don't need to say, you need to believe in this and you need to read this technical manual to understand how. It's helpful sometimes to know how things work.
What would be if you wanted to do that, where would be a good place to sort of dip your toe in then? I mean, there's like, because the Alice Bailey books can be kind of dense and a little obscure sometimes, but some are more accessible than others.
Well, there are, and I mean, we could we could really be self-promoting here and say, well, you could go to meditationmount.org and we got a number of essays and blogs and recordings and even these podcast series. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be self-referential in that way. But that's what we're attempting to do, is to make this accessible. So there are a number of books. I like the book that's called Telepathy and the Etheric Vehicle by Alice Bailey, given by the Tibetan, the Master DK. It's a thin book, but it's packed so densely with everything. And it's a good book. Then there are other books that you read called A Treatise on White Magic. And those, you think, oh my gosh, what's all that about? Well, what it's helping you to understand is how things come into being, how you bring something from the realm of ideation into the realization of it in form. And you have white magicians and have black magicians. Black magicians are those who create forms to serve matter and to serve themselves and a counter to the evolutionary impulse. The white magician has no personal ambition with the wielding of power. It's all in service to the greater good, all in service to the plan. And so that's another book. But there are also other books out there that you know, I don't know. Walk into a bookstore, ask to be shown. I mean, I've heard stories from friends who go into a bookstore and a book has actually fallen off the shelf in front of them.
Right.
Or, you stand in front of a bookcase, you close your eyes, open your heart, and reach out your hand. That's a retrieval mechanism. We do this with a Google search. We have the ability to retrieve whatever we need if we ask clearly. Ask and ye shall receive. So once we're lined up with our intent, the intent is delivered.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's better than Amazon. I mean, there's no wait.
Yeah, there you go.
No wait time. You don't have to sign up for Prime to get it quicker.
Yeah. What do you, just kind of touching back on what's the role of like the new group of world servers in this whole reset? And also,
yeah.
Do you think that, I mean, it was not intentional, but they're calling it the server, and now, we have servers. Like we actually have like server farms.
Yeah.
Like was that? I mean, it was unintentional. There weren't server farms when that term was coined, but it seems interesting that there's a parallel there.
Yeah, service my understanding of what it means in the spiritual connotation is service is the natural urge of the soul to give, to love, and to nourish that around it. Therefore, you serve. It means that my energy is going out in service. It's not self-serving, self-centered. So in that way, but also the new group of world servers can sound like this exclusive club as well. But it's really everyone who said yes to life, whose lives are being reset, coming into alignment with deeper purpose, coming into alignment with their part in the plan. And there is this affirmation that the Tibetan gives that he says at 5 o'clock each day, this is a good one to sound around the world. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones, serve the plan. May I fulfill my part in the one work in the plan through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. And he said, look, if you want to follow a spiritual practice, take those 3 words. If you practice self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech for the rest of your life, you'll come further than studying a lot of techniques.
I think that's huge. That's because anyone can do this. You don't have to, any intellect level, this is actually a really important tool. Can you maybe kind of go into that a little bit more? Because I think that's super key, because that's a frequency available to anyone, right?
So could you double click on your question?
Like, so earlier I asked, like, what are some of the books you can maybe dip your toe into? But that's a kind of an intellectual pursuit. This is something that literally anyone can practice. I mean,
Right.
this is a key to the first door, kind of, that anyone can jump in on. I think it's a really big idea. Just um, like even just the concept of forgetfulness, or like if you incorporate these into your daily life, you will just jumpstart your entire consciousness.
Well,
You know?
the funny thing about self-forgetfulness
Yeah.
is asking you to be more aware of yourself.
Right.
It's really stop
Yeah.
being so self-referential
Right.
and
Right.
self-promoting and self-centered.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be self-forgetful, I have to stand in that selfless space that is the sovereignty of self.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
It's a
sort of
fascinating kind of
it's like
mind.
counterintuitive.
Yeah, but it is it's the whole trick of mindfulness. Like
Well,
you know.
and harmlessness means, oh, I shouldn't do anything to cause harm.
Yeah.
I remember when I was living in the Findhorn Foundation in Scotland many years ago, I was working in the garden and we were very sensitive to the plants and all of that. And there was one day a woman was walking across the lawn and she said, oh no, I can't walk across the grass. I can hear the grass scream. I'm causing it harm. And we thought, oh God, how far do you take this?
That's a good question.
But harmlessness is not doing anything. Harmlessness is making sure that love flows through all your thinking, your speaking, and your acting. And when that happens, you cannot harm. That is harmlessness. It's not doing something.
Right.
And then right speech is really important because now we go back to the throat center of humanity. Why is right speech so important? Because it's tied up with the creative role of humanity.
Well, I think people forget, or that's an important point, because the power of speech is so powerful. You know, like the voicing of words and ideas. So right speech, people don't realize they're 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 walking around a loaded weapon. You know.
Well, everything
Yeah.
we pronounce
Yeah.
is an act of creation.
Mhm.
We covered this in one of our podcasts
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, that the Old English for magic is called grammary.
Mhm.
It's grammar, it's spelling. What do you think a spell is? A spell is a sequence of energetic codes
Right.
that produces an outcome.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure you know how to spell correctly.
Mhm.
And therefore, right speech is how you spell correctly. So it's both the technique, but it's also the intent behind it. Are you doing it from the point of the white magician or the black magician? Are you doing it because you have a speech impediment? You're doing it because you have a speech impediment
Mhm.
at a spiritual level. So when I look at, in the beginning was the word,
Mhm.
every time I speak something, I set something in motion. I give it life. I give it birth. Guess what? I sentence it to life.
It's very important. I think it's also there's a lot of kind of new scholarship on this idea of like both your internal monologue and how you actually talk about yourself. You know.
Because that's the imprinting,
Yeah.
the self-talk. Because you are imprinting, you are actually creating a reality through the combination of thought and speech.
Mhm.
Well, that's in the beginning was the word that came out of the dream, that came out of the deep desire. We are replicating that. So when we can reset our lives so that what we speak is the deep desire on the inside of the soul, which is love, which is compassion,
Yeah.
which is respect, which is beauty, which is joy, which is why when you read the Agni Yoga teachings, it says, well, in the Bible, it says, do not blaspheme.
Mhm.
But it says, do not swear. It doesn't mean because we're purists, we know we're holier than thou. No, realize that when you say something, it carries the energy wrapped up in, encapsulated in that word.
Mhm.
And right speech is choosing the right energetic and frequency formulation to sound forth, to create on the outside what you desire that lives on the inside. it's you're using the voice and you're using the combination of formula spells as a paintbrush.
That's right.
And once you've set something and unleashed it, set it in motion, it actually is tied to you. You have a karmic responsibility for it.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that I've said in my life, oh my God, I wish I could undo that. You can undo it. You can undo a spell. You can break a spell. It can only be broken by a power that's greater than the one that set it in motion.
And that's why maybe is that love is the antidote to all of that.
Thank you.
Right.
Love is the greatest spell.
Yeah.
The spelling. I mean, if you want a binding spell, love is that which binds everything together in the universe. That is the great binding spell. It's not one ring to bind them all. Going back to Tolkien. Yeah. No, it's one quality to bind us all together, which is love. So right speech is how we express. And has nothing to do with being puritanical, or it just means understanding the power of thought and the power of speech. Because we do create. This is what it means to learn to be a co-creator. Made in the image and likeness of the Creator, it says, hey, you've been given an instrument of creation. It's called speech.
I think people are that's going to become hit home a lot more for people in the very near future as voice commands become a reality. You know, we already give our phones voice commands. We give Alexa and Siri voice commands. But that's going to, I think, really start to kind of like maybe open the possibilities or start to make these relationships between all the historical texts that have examples of someone saying something or blowing a trumpet and knocking a wall down. And then as we start to see that your voice can actually command to do things, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there really is something to this.
Well, in the first episode, we talked about some predictions about some, the Master DK said, this is what's coming. These 3 discoveries will be coming in this century. And he wrote that in early 30s. Yeah. One was the release of atomic energy. The other was the healing effect of light and color. And the third, which he said was tied up with the first, the atomic energy, is the science of sound. And the power of sound, because sound is a creative agent. And you just intimated that, the walls of Jericho fell down because they marched around Jericho 7 times blowing these trumpets. Right. So we're not here to blow our own trumpets. Right. We're here to sing the song of love. And that won't destroy anything. It will create harmony. It will help with the big reset. Without love, you can't have the big reset. Without allowing this note of purpose to sound inside your mind and your heart, we cannot be reset. And I'm not sure whether we have time to do it today. We could do it another time. But we talked about, I think a couple of years ago, an episode on soulquake, which is what happens when this force enters your life and shakes you up and you think, what the hell's going on? It's a reset. So we could revisit that another time. I think we may have sat down for a pretty hearty meal today.
We did. I would love to revisit like the soulquake and those concepts. Maybe we do that in the next episode.
Sure.
And because it's certainly there's an ongoing one. I mean, from the time that we first broached that subject, things have certainly not slowed down. And things have gotten more precarious and they're becoming much more palpable for everyone. You used to be able to kind of stick your head under the sand if you really wanted to, but even if you're not engrossed in social media or following the news, you're really seeing the connectedness of all these events.
Well, and also because the ethers, the psychic atmosphere, is filled with these vibrations.
Right.
So we're picking it up at some level. That's where anxiety comes from. That's where tension comes from. I don't know what's happening. I'm picking something up. What's happening? It's not just me. We've heard that. It's not just me.
Right.
It seems like it's happening to all of us, or it's happening to the planet. That's true.
Yeah.
So we're becoming sensitive to that. Therefore, the Great Reset is bringing ourselves into alignment with the original note of purpose, bringing ourselves into alignment with an understanding of the plan so that we may play our part in the plan or the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. I mean, what more do we need to know? I mean, if I've told you once, I've told you a million times. Love is the answer.
I love it.
I think that's a wrap. I mean, that was dessert, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was great.
Okay.
And I like that on this third season, we're sort of diving deeper. And I think we're going to continue to do that, pick some subjects, do a little deeper dives, focus on some things that are really coming to the forefront.
Well, yeah, we need to understand what's going on, not just with the mind, but with the heart, because the heart registers the vibrations of the cosmos, of the planet, of each other, of our internal life.
Yeah.
And the heart not only registers, but it's the chalice that receives. It's the instrument and the organ that connects us with life. And it's also the organ that distributes and broadcasts and transmits. So the heart really is this all-in-one tool of life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. All right. Well,
it's a cosmic Swiss Army knife, man.
Yeah. Okay. The cosmic Swiss Army knife.
It's the heart.
It's the heart. Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Joey.